The worst things about being an astronaut. Hey guys, welcome back to Tech Region. Half of kids in school dream of becoming an astronaut when they grow up. Those who successfully achieve the dream can tell you, it's worth it. After all, these people had to train for years to make it big. But is being an astronaut, exploring the depths of space, really worth it? In this video, we take a look at the worst things about being an astronaut. Stay tuned. The training is a nightmare. The application process to be an astronaut is really a headache, to say the least. Less than 1% of applicants are chosen, and just to apply in the first place generally takes an advanced science degree and exceptional military service. In other words, that 1% is already picked from the top 1%. But if you do make it, the preparatory training is intense. One training routine is spending entire days submerged in a giant pool, practicing the mechanical procedures necessary to keep a station in working order. Another test is to swim laps while wearing the standard 200+ pound NASA flight suit. Still another test/training procedure is taking a ride on the famous Vomit Comet, a plane that flies in parabolic arcs, simulating weightlessness. It does this around 50 times per session, earning its nickname. You'll get motion sickness and puke. Speaking of vomit, it's very hard to keep your lunch down in space. The lack of gravity keeps the vestibular system in your inner ear from working, meaning your sense of balance is wrecked. When the inner ear can't function in a way that matches what the eyes are perceiving, you end up with motion sickness, which, as we know, leads to puking. Though astronauts generally acclimate to the motion sickness, known as space adaptation syndrome, within a few days, other, more lingering problems keep puke a constant threat. For one thing, both shuttles and stations notoriously stink. As astronaut Chris Hadfield put it, the toilet is right there in the middle of everything. You have up to 7 people, and it's a tiny little ship. It's like 7 people in a camper van with a porta potty for 2 weeks, where you can never get out. You'll go crazy. When the 2020 pandemic first started, when many people were forced to cope with extended relative isolation for the first time, a number of astronauts were asked how they dealt with their own isolation so often. The answer? With a tremendous amount of hard work every day. Astronauts report struggling with the lack of quality sleep, isolation, loneliness, depression, anxiety, stress, fatigue, mood swings, concentration deficits, and even PTSD. It's just plain hard to work a full day in which any failure can mean death, then go to bed without your loved ones, not sleep, and repeat the same thing over and over, perhaps hundreds of times in a row. You might go deaf. While space is a vacuum without air to vibrate, there's no sound. It's completely silent. As true as that is, it doesn't apply to the inside of shuttles and space stations. In fact, they are insufferably loud, even loud enough to partially deafen astronauts. Space stations like the ISS are an ecosystem of mechanical and digital parts, rotating, vibrating, and whirring constantly. Even the living quarters on the ISS, far from the scientific instrumentation at the heart of the operation, can be up to 7 to 5 decibels. The CDC warns that prolonged noises over 70 dB can damage hearing. Indeed, NASA astronaut Bill McArthur and Russian cosmonaut Valery Tokar both suffered hearing loss after their 2006 stay on the ISS. Sleep sucks. After a hard day of calculations, engineering, and science, you'd think astronauts could at least count on a restful night of sleep. Too bad about a dozen phenomena conspire to keep that from ever happening. For one, there's the aforementioned constant noise. For another, there are the flashing lights astronauts see, even when their eyes are closed, thought to be caused by cosmic rays passing through their eyelids. Then there's the sporadic and frequent sunrises and sunsets that wash over the ISS, sometimes up to 16 per day. Then there's the lack of gravity, which forces astronauts to tie themselves to a wall to avoid bumping around their cabin. Your skin falls off. When asked what the grossest thing about living in space is, ESA astronaut Time Peak responded, "Watching the soles of your feet disintegrate, because astronauts use the bottoms of their feet so rarely, almost exclusively when they exercise. The soles soften more and more, until they become like a newborn baby's. But to soften, The feet have to gradually force off all the hard, callous skin built up over a lifetime of walking. The skin flakes off bit by bit, clump by clump. After a few weeks, astronauts have to take care removing their socks, lest they unleash a shower of dead skin flakes ejected into the cabin. But that's not the worst part about space. Going to the bathroom is the worst part. Peeing and pooping are the two worst parts of living in space. Peggy Whitson, whom you may know for holding a slew of NASA records, including most time in space, has said that using the bathroom was her least favorite part of life in space. Peeing, which is considered the easier of the two, involves sucking the pee from your nether regions with a machine that then converts it into the water you drink. Pooping is worse, as it involves filling a glorified porta-potty pit until the point at which, as Whitson said, you have to put a rubber glove on and pack it down. But of course, due to the low gravity, some turds escape the pit and go rogue, floating about the station. Then the world's best of the best, our pioneers in cosmic exploration, have to play catch the turd. That brings us to the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.